heading to a party and staying over at a friend's place, no matter what anyone else thinks. Greetings, my dear viewers. Welcome to the channel where we expose the truth behind betrayal and discuss the consequences when trust is shattered. If you believe in true family values and stand against cheating, please subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. Let's dive into today's story. It was a regular Friday night when my wife of 12 years, Avery, happily informed me that she was heading out to a reunion with her college friends. She slipped into her favorite dress, the one that always highlighted her timeless beauty, and a radiant glow surrounded her as she prepared to leave. I smiled, seeing the same excitement in her that had captivated me all those years ago. Nights like this weren't unusual. Avery often went out with friends while I stayed home. I trusted her completely, and our relationship had been built on that trust and an unspoken bond. Before leaving, she kissed me goodbye and reminded me not to wait up. I had no reason to doubt her intentions. As the evening unfolded, I settled on the couch with a cold beer and a movie to pass the time. Though Avery's nights out had become routine, I was genuinely happy that she enjoyed herself. But as the hours passed, a strange unease began to settle within me. It wasn't overwhelming, just a subtle feeling that something wasn't quite right. Normally, Avery would post a photo or a quick update on social media, but tonight, nothing. The silence felt strange, and the feeling wouldn't leave. By 1:30 a.m., I could no longer push the nagging doubt aside. I decided to do something I had never done before. I accessed our shared phone account. Over the years, I had always respected her privacy, but tonight, something drove me to break that boundary. As I sifted through the message logs, one name stood out, Daniel. His name appeared more often than I had expected. I didn't recognize him. He wasn't from her college days or our circle of friends. My heart started to race as I opened their message history. Though their messages weren't explicit, the tone was unmistakably flirtatious. Lines like, "Can't wait to see you tonight," pierced my chest like shards of glass. My mind spun as I tried to process this. Avery, my partner of over a decade, someone I had trusted completely, now seemed to be hiding something. Shock and disbelief froze me in place. The sound of her heels clicking on the hardwood floor snapped me back to reality. She tried to move quietly, but it was unnecessary. I had been wide awake for hours, consumed with the turmoil of the discovery. She seemed surprised to find me sitting there. "Are you still up?" she asked, her voice tense. I forced myself to stay calm. "Yeah, how was the reunion?" I asked, my tone steady, trying to mask the storm inside. "It was nice," she replied, avoiding my gaze as she removed her shoes. There was a hesitation in her voice, a discomfort that didn't go unnoticed. "Who all showed up?" I asked casually, masking my growing curiosity. "Just some old friends." "You wouldn't know them," she said, her words too quick, too rehearsed. The name Daniel echoed in my mind, and I knew she was lying. But instead of confronting her immediately, I decided to wait. I needed undeniable proof. Over the next few days, I continued to play along as if everything were normal. But beneath the surface, I was methodically gathering evidence. Her phone, her social media, and any other traces she had left behind. Bit by bit, the connection between her and Daniel became clearer. What had started innocently enough had grown into something more. The final piece was a photo, Avery and Daniel at a party, his arm around her waist, her head resting on his shoulder. The evidence was undeniable. But instead of confronting her immediately, I decided to handle it in a more calculated way. I wasn't just exposing her betrayal. I wanted her to understand the full consequences of her actions. I started researching Daniel, his social media presence, his job, his private email address. I created a fake persona, someone who seemed like a mutual acquaintance of hers, and contacted him. He had no idea who I really was. Simultaneously, I set up hidden cameras around the house, recording everything, messages, calls, and meetings. I wasn't just building a case. I was gathering irrefutable evidence. The day of reckoning arrived when Avery casually mentioned she was meeting a friend for coffee. I knew exactly who that friend was. This time, I wouldn't just sit idly by. My plan was in motion. I compiled a video, screenshots of their messages, footage from the cameras, the photograph of them together, and uploaded it anonymously to a popular social media platform, framing it as a cautionary tale. Within hours, the video went viral. When Avery returned that evening, her phone buzzed nonstop with notifications. Her confusion quickly turned to panic as she realized what had happened. Her face drained of color. Her hands shook as she looked at the screen. There was no escaping the truth now. For the first time, she had to face the full weight of her betrayal. Only this time, the entire world was watching. She turned to me, her voice trembling as she whispered, "What? What is this? Did you do this?" She finally asked, her voice quivering. I didn't respond. My silence spoke louder than words ever could. Her knees buckled slightly as she collapsed to the floor, her sobs starting to flow. She reached for me, seeking comfort, but I stood motionless. The bitterness of betrayal had crystallized into something cold and unforgiving. Her words of regret, her apologies, they fell on deaf ears. "You made your choices, Avery," I said, my voice steady but cutting. "Now you're living with the consequences." The barrage of comments flooded her phone. Friends, acquaintances, and strangers alike had turned against her. The perfect image she had so carefully crafted was now shattered. The video I posted had been the catalyst, an irrefutable expose of her affair with Daniel. "Please," she begged. "Take it down. I'll do anything. Just please take it down." I shook my head slowly, feeling a cold satisfaction settle over me. "I'm not taking it down," I replied, firm and unyielding. "You made your choices, Avery. Now you deal with the consequences." Her sobs softened, but there was no reprieve. No escape. Without another word, I turned to leave. There was nothing left to say. The man who had once loved her with all his heart was gone, replaced by someone who could no longer bear the sight of her. I packed my bags in silence, her muffled cries echoing through the house. I didn't turn back, not because I felt nothing, but because I felt too much. What we had was over, irreparably broken. As I walked out, her cries grew faint behind me. The silence between us was now deafening, a final punctuation on a love lost, a betrayal exposed. The days that followed were filled with her desperate messages, apologies, explanations, pleas for a second chance. But I never responded. As for Daniel, he vanished from the digital world, erasing any trace of himself. But that couldn't undo the damage. Avery and Daniel were left to pick up the pieces of their shattered lives. The truth was out, and there was no erasing it. Meanwhile, I moved forward. The pain lingered, but so did the strength I had gained. The silence between Avery and me was the final word in our story. A chapter closed. The past was behind me, and I knew I had made the right choice. May the force be with you.